In today's news, Fox pays $800 million in fines, Canadians go on strike, and Assad meets with the Saudis. Canada's largest federal public service union announced Tuesday night that more than 155,000 workers will go on strike, setting the stage for one of the largest strikes in Canada's history, with wage increases being the main issue. The Public Service Alliance of Canada said that the strike action taken by its members working for the Treasury Board and Canadian Tax Agency would begin Wednesday, as tax returns are due in Canada. "We truly hoped we wouldn't be forced to take strike action, but we've exhausted every other avenue to reach a fair contract for Canada's federal public service workers," said Chris Aylward, PSAC National President. He added, "We're ready to reach a fair deal as soon as the government is ready to come to the table with a fair offer." As a result of the strike, Canadians should expect that some services of the Government of Canada will be delayed or unavailable. Negotiations between the union and Treasury Board began in June of 2021, but reached an impasse in May 2022. Strike action followed due to a disagreement over proposed wage increases that are outstripped by the rate of inflation. The Public Service Alliance of Canada is the country's largest federal public service union, representing nearly 230,000 workers in every province and territory, including more than 120,000 federal public service workers employed by the Treasury Board, and more than 35,000 employed by the Canada Revenue Agency. In 1991, they held the largest single union strike in Canadian history, which won important job security improvements. This continues a trend of strikes across major industry and state services the world over, as a result of inflation outpacing real incomes for a majority of working people. This once again proves that only large-scale union action and strikes are able to bring all groups to the discussion table to win concrete improvements in the conditions of workers. Though in a capitalist system, they are always temporary by design. On Monday, The Washington Post reported that according to 4 classified reports obtained by the newspaper, the United States eavesdropped and gathered intelligence on the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. The UN has made it clear that such actions are inconsistent with the obligations of the United States enumerated in the UN Charter and the Convention on the Privileges and Immunities of the United Nations. Strongly worded letters aside, it's highly unlikely that we'll see the US suffer any significant material consequences for its actions, the same way it hasn't in the countless previous cases where they were caught spying on their allies. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has met with the Saudi foreign minister in the most significant step yet towards ending Syria's decade-long regional isolation. Assad has been politically isolated in the region since the conflict began, but a flurry of diplomatic activity has kicked off in the past week as regional relations shift following a decision by Saudi Arabia and Damascus ally Iran to resume ties. So far in April, India and China have snapped up the vast majority of Russian oil at prices above the Western cap of $60 per barrel, according to traders and calculations by Reuters. That means the Russian Federation is enjoying stronger revenue despite Western sanctions, simply by selling more to markets which do not participate in said sanctions. China's economy grew by 4.5% year over year in the first quarter of 2023. Signaling that the world's second-largest economy is firmly on the path to recovery after the end of Beijing's strict and effective zero-COVID policies. The growth figure falls slightly short of Beijing's 5% growth target for 2023, but is still ahead of market expectations. In the UK, consumer prices rose by an annual 10.1%, according to the Office for National Statistics, down from 10.4% in February, but above the 9.8% forecast by economists polled by Reuters. This makes Britain the only Western European state still left with double-digit inflation at the moment. As a reminder, inflation had hit a 41-year high of 11.1% in October of 2022. And in an interesting twist, Fox News has agreed to pay nearly $800 million to avoid a trial that could have exposed how it promoted lies about the 2020 US presidential election. The network has agreed to pay $787.5 million to Dominion, a voting machine company, which argued its business has suffered from Fox spreading false claims the vote had been rigged against Donald Trump. This settlement is the largest sum ever paid in a media libel case, 4 times larger than the previous record holder. That's all for today. We'll be back day after tomorrow with more news. If you missed them, be sure to check out our previous episodes by following the links on your screen. As always, you can support the show and get the news in text form a few hours early by becoming a patron at patreon.com/firstthought.